Hello, welcome to Ennara Reacts. I am currently watching another video from Adam Savage from Mythbusters, and this is him meeting real ancient swords. I recently watched one with him looking at gauntlets, so continuing the theme, he's meeting ancient swords. Let's see how that goes. So they're cool.
Hey everybody, Adam Savage in the Armor Conservation Lab at the Metropolitan Museum of Art alongside our friend Sean. How are you, sir?
How you doing? Welcome back.
Thank you so much. I love arms and armor, and one of the things that my association with the Met has brought about is while I love these things, I have not touched original examples of very many of them. Last time I was here, they satisfied that by showing me some gauntlets, and now, Sean, you have a selection of original period swords.
Nice
And I
swords.
have been trying not to look down, but oh my God, every single one of these makes me a little choked up.
And I do apologize. I would have loved to have had more, but the table is only so big.
You have 8 swords here. I'm having trouble breathing almost seeing these. So these are all period.
Yeah, these are all period pieces.
Yeah.
So what we have here, and they're arrayed kind of chronologically.
Okay.
So we've got sort of 13th century, then up to about 1790 at the end. What we ended up picking to do is really just sort of straight double-edged blades.
Yeah,
European.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Obviously, there's wildly different kinds of edged weapons all over the world.
Yeah.
And even within Europe, while you tend to think of the double-edged sword being the classic knightly weapon, there's tons of single-edged swords, curved swords, all manner of things.
Right.
But again, only so much table
Isn't a
space.
saber
so I'm gonna
just
start with this.
single-edged?
So now I know you've built a couple swords
I
in
have
your
built
day
a
and a couple
sword or
knives,
two.
but just for your viewers here. So here's our 13th century sword, and what I kind of like here is the guard comes back, so you can kind of see how they're constructed. So the blade continues. You can grab this if you'd like.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
the blade continues, narrows then right at where the guard is. It's called the shoulder,
Right.
and becomes what's called the tang, which runs through the grip, through the
Yeah.
pommel, and then is riveted over
Ideally,
the back.
I don't think you would want
seal
the
everything
guard to
together, pinned
move
over the back
like that, at
to
least
rivet
not
the
when
thing
you're
together.
So
using
you
it.
still, the grip is long gone, but the other bits of furniture are
Still
here.
attached, and you can hold that by the handle if
You
you'd
really
like.
can.
Yeah. Feel the weight of it.
This right here. This is what I've been
Definitely has some
wanting so
dings
badly.
and stuff on the edges.
When you buy, I mean, replica swords are everywhere.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
are incredibly plentiful.
My daughter
They're
would
all
love one.
stamped out of that 440. And they're way over heavy, blade heavy.
Yeah.
And I knew that these things had a much better balance to them than you expected, but I didn't expect it to be this light.
Yeah, so this one, and you've lost some material.
Sure. Was
it's
this
being
a-
excavated.
Yeah, it was excavated.
Yeah.
So
So
the
this weighs
deterioration
in-
of having been buried.
Yeah, you lost a little bit, but not much. So right
Yeah.
now this weighs
got a
just over
hole
a
in
pound
it.
and a half. I would be shocked if this even weighed 2 pounds when
Right,
it was
right.
new. So it was a very
That's pretty light.
sword, and this is, I think, pretty representative. At this time period, you've got, your armor is for a fully armored man. Obviously, there's people who are wearing less armor, but you sort of have head to toe mail,
Yeah.
helmets, and then your torso is protected by something like called a coat of plates, where you've got not a solid breastplate, but larger plates sort of riveted to a textile
Overlapping.
or a leather
Right.
liner. So you have some substantial armor, but you're not like head to toe in plate armor just yet. One of the things about mail is, well, it's great against stopping a sword slash. It is a flexible material, so it passes that energy onto the person
Right.
beneath it.
Things hurt when they hit you, even if they don't kill
Boy,
you.
do they, yeah.
Like Kevlar may stop
Hey
the
everyone,
bullet,
big
but
heads up. Paleo Valley's running a
doesn't
sale on all
mean
their
you
meat
won't
sticks
get
right now. You
bruised.
can get 30 sticks for 36
just not
bucks,
penetrated.
which comes out to $1.20 per stick. But before you go and stock up, first here's
I remember hearing about a skeleton excavated near York that has a male ring embedded in the shin. It must have driven the clean through. Yeah, that must have
Ow.
ruined his day.
Ow! Wow.
Yeah. So this kind of sword, is suited to that kind of armor and that kind of combat. So then, of course, people start armoring up.
Yeah.
And I think there's a sort of misconception that after armor starts, and so you start having the sort of thrusting weapons, and then it's a smooth progression then to rapiers. And you have cutting swords very much in the same vein as the earlier swords continue,
those are
because
really long.
not everyone's wearing the same level of armor.
Right, right.
And even within sort of swords designed for thrusting, there's a tremendous variety. So we're going to look at a couple of those.
I just holding this and feeling its balance. I'm finding this really quite intoxicating.
Really nice, yeah.
It is
Wait till you get to the next one. 'Cause
Okay.
of all the feel, it's probably my favorite. Yeah. So now this is fabulous. So here
That one's
you've got the additional
wider
length
blade.
for a second hand
it's
to
a
be
hand
on
and a
there.
half.
Two.
And we've switched from having the fuller, so that sort of shallow channel is called a fuller. It's to help
Yeah.
lighten the weight
It's
without
not a
weakening
blood
it.
groove.
Not a
Okay,
blood groove.
moving on.
So this one has the
groove.
diamond cross section, gives a little more rigidity to the thrust. But here's what I love. All right, grab it. See how much flex you have in there.
Oh.
These were remarkably flexible. We have some where if you hold it out straight, it'll actually bow
Just
a
of
little
its
bit on
own
its own
weight.
weight. Yeah. So this would have still been a nasty cutter despite being
What?
despite being, having the
What?
diamond cross. Oh yeah, it feels fabulous, right? So this piece
Still light?
is, this inscription here is in Arabic.
Yeah.
And it says that this was donated to the Mamluk arsenal in Alexandria in 1419. So the sword has to predate that.
Nice.
So this was donated to a museum in 1419.
Yeah, it was presumably captured in battle and then donated as a sign of the Mamluk victory.
I can't even conceive. This is maybe 150 thousandths thick.
Yeah.
This maybe
Quite thin.
3 millimeters thick, with a full diamond cross section, which blows my mind. And that peak is really nice.
And this is there's another identical one floating around too. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So probably a large group.
Those are cool.
Originally.
Man, this is.
Would you want that much flex?
You're right. I mean, the balance of this
Yeah,
is.
you could easily, you have two hands, but you could easily wield that with one
Yeah,
hand
this
very
is-
comfortably. It balances quite close to the grip. I think the size of the pommel, the width of the blade right at the base there, and the guard really keeps sort of the mass very close to the hand. Great feel.
What's the total weight of this?
So that is 3 pounds, 10 ounces,
Okay.
which is not a lot, really.
No, not. And again, the pommel
Little
makes
more
it feel
than the
much
other one,
lighter
but-
because of the counterweight. All right, I eventually have to let this one go. Okay.
We can come back. So now
You can't
here's-
keep it.
13th century.
So this is probably very early 14th century.
Okay.
So our end date is 1419. So at some point before then.
Right.
How long it was kicking out before then, we're not sure. So now this one is pretty much contemporary. So this is somewhere between 1400 and 1430, probably made in Germany. And now what you'll notice, this is actually lighter.
Really?
You will not think that. This
No.
is actually lighter, but get your hands on that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't feel lighter
No, it feels
because
like
the
a
balance
crowbar,
is quite different.
Right? So you look at the blade difference, though. So it's the same amount of weight,
Right.
but
very-
all compacted in. So you have sort of this
Like simple
flattened
looking
hexagon
design.
at the base,
Right.
which then transforms into this really thick diamond cross section.
So this is meant for piercing through
Yeah, that looks like a
Through mail,
piercer,
really.
you
not a
and the things you're
slicer.
wearing.
Yeah, because by this point, you have really head-to-toe plate armor. And so you can't cut or thrust through an actual piece
Slashing
of
is having a
do it.
lithe weapon is no longer to your advantage.
plate. No, against a heavily armored
Right,
man.
right.
So the option is you have to find the gaps.
The
And so those
chinks.
gaps are very often covered with either you have a male shirt on
Mm-hmm.
or sort of a set of male shorts, or just, later on you'll have just an individual patch of mail might be sewn to your jacket,
Right,
just
right.
where the gaps are. And so something like this, your goal is to find those gaps and hit those male rings and
pierce
split them
it in.
open. And so you want something that really, this is just a spike with a cross guard on it.
Well, I remember looking at some of the old grappling manuals, the fighting
Yeah.
manuals, where this really is specifically, you were using this hand to guide it into
Yeah.
those spaces.
Yeah, you're using the sword almost like a spear.
Yeah.
And talking about having mail on the inside of the palm, sometimes we
Yeah,
see
you would
Oh,
definitely
yeah,
want
right, so
that.
you could do that.
You
Yeah,
don't
no, you can do
cut
that.
your
This
hand.
probably wasn't sharp in the way that you normally think of a
Right,
sharp sword.
right.
Maybe just wearing a glove would have been enough. But yeah, having mail on your hands certainly would have helped.
Do I see some evidence of gilding?
I think there's some brass inlay
Okay.
inside.
This banana peel isn't garbage. It's a resource because I have a mill food recycler.
Or on the blade, which might have been maker's marks.
Little X's.
Yeah.
And then there's inscriptions down here.
Yeah.
And there's
there's a stamp inside the tang, and then on the other side of the pommel it says Maria.
it says Maria.
Yeah, a little religious inscription.
I can't believe that's lighter than its predecessor.
I know, just the balance is so different. And this one as well, similar weight. And now, what I love is this is again one of my favorite pieces in the collection. You can pick this up.
Oh, wow.
I know, right?
Wow.
So this is, you have all these. This is the same time, or I think probably later. So it's 15th century.
Yeah.
But again, this is not focused on defeating an armored opponent per se.
Okay.
Right. This is you've got the fuller. It's a
Right,
much flatter
right.
blade. Clearly, sort of cutting is a major factor. You can thrust as well, of course, but
It's
I
not
don't
quite
see this
as
as something you're
pointy
going
as the
after,
last
a
one.
male, splitting male rings open with
Right.
it.
May I can hold
Absolutely,
it by the...
yeah.
Just not... Oh, and the balance again is
Yeah.
really, really,
Really
nice.
nice in the hand. So
That's what the
during the early Middle
ball
Ages,
at the end is
city of
for,
Passau
right?
starts making these sort of
Help
called running
balance it.
wolf marks. And they become famous for having high quality blades, and so other cities start copying the running wolf mark. So like the city of Solingen at some point is actually making more swords with this running wolf mark than Passau is. So you see that mark, we say, oh, Solingen or maybe Passau, but it really could have been all over because people were literally copying
They
it.
were, of course they were.
Yeah.
Now,
yeah.
in these blades, the first one and the third one you've shown have incredible petting. They were excavated probably. This one is in insanely nice condition. Was this on someone's mantelpiece for hundreds of years?
So it's been cleaned at some point.
okay.
So
Cleaned.
I was actually just talking with Pierre about that, where you can kind of tell that it must have been taken apart because you've got this is a cool feature too. This is sort of a rain guard.
Yeah.
So this it was actually quite common. They rarely survive. Would go over the mouth of the scabbard while it was sitting in the scabbard. So you wouldn't get moisture inside.
Nice.
If this was for a couple hundred years next to a steel plate, you would expect to see some corrosion.
But you don't.
You don't. So someone
that
has
tells
disassembled
you
this
that it
sword,
was-
cleaned it, put it back together, and they've done a beautiful job.
And that could have happened any time in the last 300 years.
Yeah,
probably.
this sword, I think it first appears in the 19th century is when we first see it. So, I mean, this could have been done quite some time ago.
Right.
And
Back then, they didn't have the same idea of conservation that we do now.
No,
so
no,
they
we-
wouldn't think much of taking an old sword and just scrubbing all the
they're
rust
like,
off
oh,
of
this
it.
is all wrong. It should be bright and shiny and knock it apart. You do the same thing with armors. Rip off all the old leathers, throw them in the trash, and get some new stuff.
So you must be able sometimes to look at a picture and be like, oh.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And what's great is like you'll see this. The leather's only on the top half of
Oh,
the
so
grip
this
here.
isn't part of the grip missing. It's actually intended
No, that's
to be
actually
that
a
way.
metal sleeve. This is the only one I'm aware of that survives. There's, I think, some depictions in artwork where you can see that. If we're looking for a function, it probably adds, much like the pommel, it adds some counterweight to it, is my
Oh,
guess.
right. It's thicker than a tang.
Yeah, it's just a little extra metal, a little extra weight. But really, we don't know. It could have just been a
Interesting.
fashion for that time
Right,
period.
so this is still a sleeve that goes over the tang of the blade, which
Yeah.
gets pinned down here.
Tang passes all through it, just like as if this was another block of wood.
This is lovely.
We don't make bags like
Good
this
for
anymore. But for
Punching
years,
somebody,
we
knocking
did.
them out, maybe?
One by hand. No shortcuts. Now, as
And the leather of this grip is original, or
It looks pretty good to
It
me.
looks
Yeah,
pretty original.
I like you got the
Surprised it
got
would have
some
lasted.
cord is set in and then wrapped over it, so you have this nice X pattern.
X pattern,
inside.
and then this beautiful braided copper. It looks like almost.
Yeah, it looks like copper. You do see Turk's head knots on some very old swords. I'm not 100% sure about that particular set of wire.
Yeah.
But we have some excavated swords that are, I mean, they're around. You can see them where you have the mineralized remains of a Turk's head on like the base of the blade.
wow.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
really cool.
I'm not sure what a Turk's head is.
And what I love is, again, same weight as these two, roughly the same time period, but three wildly different examples.
Right.
Now, I want you to pick this up, and I just want you to look it over and tell me what you notice.
Okay. This is weird. So it's.
Doesn't
it's
have a
shaped like
point at
tongue
the end.
depressor.
Very long one.
It strikes me there's two possibilities. Either it was ceremonial, so it never came out of its scabbard, or it's for practice, but for someone
Kind of
wealthy.
weird.
It is practice for someone very wealthy. Yeah.
Practice,
So it's
okay.
completely blunted
Right.
all the way around.
Right.
The tip's completely rounded off.
This is so they can't hurt their teacher.
Yeah, you know. or each other. It's
Yeah.
a match set, so we actually have a matching one decorated identically.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so this is it was made in Munich in 1575, which is really late for this style of sword. Like these, you might call
Thought it was
sort
be
of long
more
swords
frequently
or hand and a
used
half swords.
to have like
and there's
wooden
sort of a rich
swords for
tradition
practice, but
of fencing
I guess he
manuals.
said they
like, as
were
you talking
wealthy,
about
so
Right.
and so in the later period, they have these sort of dedicated training swords, and you'll see these depicted in the fighting manuals, the later fighting manuals. These training swords actually stayed in use, think of it as really a sport or sort of expectations of a gentleman,
Right.
long after this type of sword had actually fallen out of functional use.
Really?
Yeah.
I love the fact that the etching is way off center here, and it's etched to. I don't know if it was originally etched to two different depths, but they definitely are. They definitely have a very different look to
Yeah,
them.
you'll sometimes get differential wear just because of, let's say, how the object was. Let's say this was hung on a wall and one side's cleaned and one side's not.
Yeah.
okay.
But it's beautiful. Like all the furniture work is really quite
Yeah.
lovely.
The combination of the file work and then the etching around it is, I just think, really nice.
Yeah.
Someone really important had these for.
And hopefully got good at using
yes.
Yeah,
using a
yeah.
sword from this.
Yeah, so now we're moving over. I kind of want to talk about these two at once.
Okay.
So now we're sort of really in the era of the rapier. So
Right. But I've never seen. I don't think I've seen a rapier with a blade that fat.
So you do get them.
They're
So this might
usually
be called
thinner.
a riding sword, would be one term that's
Okay.
used in German.
From horseback?
And this is what I quite like about this one. I'll let you hold it. This particular sword is what we call like a military issue. So this was purchased and part of the equipment of sort of the personal army of the Elector of Saxony.
Okay.
So we know this is kept in stock in an arsenal for use by a military person.
Gotcha.
And whereas this here is purely civilian. So they're
Because it's
identical
more
weight, exactly the same weight.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
ornate?
they've just sort of
decorated.
put the mass in different areas. So this is clearly primarily for thrust, but you have a stouter blade.
Right.
You can really cut with it. Given the name it's given of riding sword, it may have been used for cavalrymen
Right.
as well. But I liked the juxtaposition of a rapier for war and a rapier for civilian use, and I think those things tend to get blurred a bit.
Right, and the for war it's going to be much less adorned because it doesn't need that decoration.
Yeah, though you
Right,
will
it's be
see
pointless.
gentlemen of that era with civilian, wildly, beautifully decorated civilian rapiers hanging off and the armor.
May I pick this up?
You may pick this up. And so you'll notice immediately when you put your finger around the finger ring there, it's not terribly comfortable, is it?
No, it's not. Yeah, you can totally.
Why
There's
would-
a lot of. There's a lot.
Why
of
would you
sheep
want it
going
to be
on.
not comfortable?
So this is
Yeah, all those
I think,
little
as far as
bumps
I'm
would
aware,
be
unique. You have similar chain motifs on different
hard on the hand.
swords, rapiers, but this is the only one where I am aware of where you have inlaid silver chain and then inlaid silver jewels as well. So we don't really know much about this. It's a bit unusual. I think it's possibly Italian, but I don't think anyone's really sure. But clearly, you've got a perfectly functional blade, and this is something
it's
that
a
really
beautiful blade.
But
would
uncomfortable
really be for
to hold.
civilian use. Incredibly long, by the way. The hilt is really predominantly for show.
Right.
You could use this, but it wouldn't even be particularly comfortable to
No.
use. And this is where you start seeing the shift from swords being, a
Functional
weapon, thing of personal
to
defense, and
status.
really start becoming a part of
the fashion.
Now, always people had jeweled, beautiful swords that
Yeah.
had a great purpose, but sort of en masse, you really start seeing the sword becoming less about the martial aspects of it and more that a gentleman was expected to have one. And here is our last one. And so this is a small sword made about 1790,
Oh,
and
The hilt on that is bumpy too.
light.
it weighs nothing.
yeah.
Yeah, very
and
thin.
Forget it was in your hand.
And that was partially the point, because we've reached this is purely really a costume item. You could,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, you could do some
No,
damage with
yeah,
that if
you
you
could.
felt like
You
it.
could harm.
But sort of we've crossed the threshold where the primary purpose is sort of, it is a piece of jewelry. And what I love is the beautiful blade. And they are really well designed as thrusting weapons go. So you have this sort of triangular cross-section
Triangular,
that
yeah.
also has a fuller on the other side. So very, very light, but also very, very stout.
Yeah.
And then the reason I picked this one in particular, accomplishments. One, it's beautiful, but it's the whole hilt is steel, and
That's
these
all blued
aren't
steel?
chiseled. It's blued steel. They're beads that rotate.
Oh, holy crap.
Yeah.
No.
They're individual little beads. Every
That's
single one
nuts.
of these in
How
the
are those
entire hilt. Some
attached
of them,
there?
of course, are stuck.
Yeah.
But every single one of these is designed
To spin.
to spin. And the reason we think it is blued in this
Jeez.
manner is that it's a mourning sword. When someone has passed away and you're mourning them, you can't wear a flashy, a gold flashy
Yeah,
sword.
yeah.
So you would have a more somber hilt to go with your black mourning clothes.
Amazing.
Specifically
I can't
just
believe
for
this is
while you're in
steel.
mourning.
I thought it was
Interesting.
some sort of glass at first because the blue is so lovely. Funnily enough about the shorter blade, when I had my Inigo Montoya sword, I had a rapier blade made for it to the correct length of a rapier blade, and then found out that's like 7 inches longer than the ones they use in the movie because for fight choreography, the one I had made was this long, and in the movie they're much closer to this long.
Yeah, just easier, I'm sure, to get the shot.
Yeah, you don't need the distance.
I mean, I would argue you don't need this long in combat.
Indeed. I can't believe how light it's literally. Do you know how much this whole thing weighs?
Yeah, that's. I'm trying to think. I think that's like 1.5 pounds as well.
Wow.
Oh no, it's less. That's 16 ounces. I think.
That's just 1 pound.
1
Yeah, just
pound.
about. Or sorry, 14 ounces.
It
14.
really
So less than
feels
a
like-
pound.
Feels like nothing.
I've drunk
the
sodas
lightest
that
of
were
them.
lighter than this, heavier than this. Sean, what a thing. I mean, you know, we make stuff, we build stuff for a living, we have our hands wrapped around materials. There's just nothing like holding something that someone made.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, you should get one more.
Oh yeah, you give me this is how we finish. Oh my God. I just can't. Thank you for bringing me back to this one.
Our
And this
pleasure.
is, again, 14th century. Late 14th century.
Late 15th century.
Late 15th.
Or sorry, very early 15th century.
Okay.
Early 15th century.
Amazing. All right. I think it's as good a place to stop as any. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Really cool ancient swords. And the fact that the ornate one that he was holding last was the blued steel, just with their mourning outfits, so that wouldn't be flashy. That's just nuts. And all the individual little beads that could move is insane. Well, there you go. If you have any recommendations for other videos to watch, drop it in the comments. And thanks for watching. Remember to hit like and subscribe.